Good morning. I think today's blog is going to be a little geeky, and by geeky I mean I don't really want to talk about work or anything like that this time, but I do think I would like to talk about a little bit of technology. My friend BJ and I have gone back and forth for years on what we need to save in life as far as data that will make our life feel complete and safe, that if something happens we can retrieve that information. But not only can we retrieve it safely or restore it, we also wanted the ability to retrieve it on demand. And in the 90s that wasn't necessarily a thing. In the early 2000s, it had just started becoming a thing, but there wasn't a lot of options. It didn't exist yet. Well, now with Google Drive and Dropbox and Microsoft OneDrive and all these different solutions, there are so many ways to back up your data and to retrieve your data or to store it in the cloud or whatever, that I thought I would share with you the way I do things. And, you know, it's one of those, take the pieces you like, leave the pieces you don't. Now, originally, I used to just keep everything on my computer at home on an external hard drive with a backup drive, and I would remote back into my computer. I would have an application called VNC, or Virtual Network Computing, where I would have to log into my physical computer at home to see all my files. Now, I coupled that with an age-old technology called FTP, or File Transfer Protocol, and what I would do is I could connect to my home computer, find out what my IP address was, and then use FTP to connect to my computer to do a file transfer back and forth. About maybe 10 or 15 years ago, that was the easiest way to set it up. And 10 or 15 years ago, there were some introductory services out there that would allow you to tell the internet that your computer was at a specific location. So, like, if your IP address was 1.2.3.4, for example, which it never would be, but if it was, you could tell this server out in the internet that 1.2.3.4 was actually Billie's computer something.com. And that made it much easier to find your computer, because what would happen was you would run this program on your computer that every set of interval, whether it be 5 minutes or hour or every day, it would send this message on to this server on the internet that your computer was at this specific address, and that they should associate this word, or this DNS as it's called, translation of this word to an IP address. Anyway, that was a long time ago. Nobody does it that way anymore. It's not necessary. Nowadays, there are a number of tools out there that you can use to back up your data, to access your computer, etc. And I guess it really depends on how much data you have and how much you want to save or restore or have immediate access to. So I'm going to go through it. My needs, and I think the common needs, are some random files and documents, you know, things you want to save that you've written up in Word or text or Excel or whatever. Music, always important. Everybody loves music. Pictures, you know, the lifetime worth of pictures you've stored. and a video, maybe? Video, sure. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. Excuse me. But really, that's it. I mean, there's probably a couple other things that you like to save on your computer. Some background wallpapers, or maybe a couple games or something like that. But, oh my gosh, I gotta sneeze again. Excuse me. So, as a general rule, I think files, pictures, and music are the big three. Now, originally, all I cared about was being able to back them up. So, really, I looked for solutions like that. But nowadays, with the internet getting so fast and having access to unlimited internet through my phone and tablet and things like that. By the way, I have T-Mobile for phone service, and it truly is unlimited everything. They're not the best coverage everywhere in the US yet, but it's really worth it to have unlimited data. I don't have to worry about ever like segregating my minutes or my gigabytes or anything like that, or making sure that I'm always on a Wi-Fi because I might not have enough data. So just a note, I have 4 phones on my account, and I'm paying $130 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data, and an international plan. It's not bad. Anyway, so music, pictures, and documents. How I do that? Okay. So I have, right now, 4 programs that I use. Well, let's see. Yeah. No, 5 programs I use. Well, still 4, but I'll explain them. That I use to manage all of my data, to make everything available to me online, as well as a good, stable backup. First, let's get away with the weird or the random things. Videos, throw them all on YouTube, okay? Upload them all, save them that way. You can always pull them back later, or Google Video even if you want to. I know that service kind of lives in the invisible tangent of nothingness, but you can use it still. It's there. But honestly, upload all your videos to YouTube. If you don't want to show the world, make them private. The problem that I had with uploading my blog the first day was it wouldn't let me upload something more than 15 minutes. Well, all you have to do is verify your account, and that's just a matter of putting in a phone number and letting it send you a text message to prove that you're a human being. And then you get unlimited uploads. I mean, this is not rocket science. Upload them all to YouTube. You can make them private. You can password protect them. They're saved there forever. I don't think YouTube is going away anytime in the near future. And if you need to re-download them from your own account, you can re-download them without any plugins or hacks or anything like that. So they're there. And then that way you can also share them if you want. So that's that. Music. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Google Music. It was relatively new for me. I didn't know that it really existed. With Pandora and Spotify and Apple Music and Match and all these different services, I just thought Google was another one. Well, what I didn't know, and this is something that you might want to investigate, is that Google Music, yeah, you're awesome. Google Music allows 50,000 songs to be uploaded from you know, your music, whether they're original albums or remixes that you found online or that you downloaded from some European website or whatever. They're all basically it's 50,000 songs. Now, what I like about that is I have way more than 50,000 songs, but all of those songs I can re-download if I want to. They're all, like, 80% of my music library is, you know, 80s music, 90s music, and music of today that I could re-download if something were to suddenly happen, because they're all regular songs. But that 10 or 15% of my library, that's those mashups or those random remixes or something like that, I don't have a way of re-backing those up or re-downloading those if they're gone, because some of them you can't download anywhere anymore. And some of them were mixes that friends of mine made that, you know, whatever. So I back up my music in 2 ways. One, of course, I have a backup drive plugged into my computer. Backup hard drives, even the tiny, slow ones, are like $50. And $50 to save you years of headache, or, well, a huge headache from years of cleanup or years of data downloading is not a big deal. I mean, just do it. Plug it in, run their backup software, or if you have a Mac, use Time Machine, or whatever you want to do. Just keep everything backed up. Simple as that. Oh, also, what's great about portable hard drives, in my opinion, and this is just my paranoia, but if you buy a portable hard drive and you're keeping backups regularly, there are 3 things that I will grab in a fire, and that 2 of them are my cats and 1 is my portable hard drive. I can yank that shit out of my computer and you know, take it with me and have all my data there as I'm running down the stairs to get out of the house if there's a fire. The computer I can replace. The operating system, the software I can replace. 17 years of digital photos I can't replace if they're burned up in a fire. So just keep that in mind. That's kind of one of the things that I like about my portable hard drive. Okay, so we're talking about music. I'm sorry. Music. So what I do is there's an application from Google Music that you download and install on your computer. And what it does is you tell it a folder or a playlist. Now, if you have iTunes or if you're using like another music manager like Windows Media Player or something like that to manage your music, you tell this plugin or this system application which folder or set of playlists it should monitor. Okay. In this case, I have 5 or 10 playlists that I tell it to watch and download from. And what it does is it sets up a sync between Google Music and your computer. And anytime you add music to those playlists or you update a song or whatever, it does that. Now, originally the limit was 20,000, and I thought that was a little small. Then they upped it to 50,000, which is much better. But not only that, Google Music has an app on the phone, right? It has an app on a tablet, and it has an app from the website. So no matter where I am, I can stream from them my music. Or they also have a built-in kind of Spotify / Pandora-y playlist-y thing built in. So they can mix my music in with other music that's similar to it or other kind of genres that are similar. So I get exposed to some new music. And if I like it, then I can, you know, like it and save it for later, add it to a playlist or whatever. So it's like any of the other music services, really, except that I get to incorporate my own music into it, and it's completely free, and there's no commercials. What? Can't complain about that. Okay, so that's part 1. That's music. That's what I do. Part 2 is, let's just go to docs and files. Okay, part 2, docs and random files. Now, I have things like templates for labels, right? That I print out once in a while. I have Excel spreadsheets about things that I've done. I have my will. Oh, I have all my invoices for my websites that I've invoiced out to customers. I don't have a lot of documents at home, actually, now that I think about it. Some of my personal writings that I've done. Oh, I do have a lot of scripts. I'm a programmer, you know, beep, beep, beep. So I write a lot of scripts, whether they be simple like batch files or Apple scripts for my Mac or whatever. But I like to save those, right? Okay, so I use 2 services to do that. I use Dropbox and Google Drive. So Google Drive has proven to be a very effective tool for any kind of docs and files that I need to manipulate. So I've split out my documents and my files into 2 separate kind of thoughts. The files are things that launch against specific applications, like scripts or like oh, a good one, my Quicken backup file. Those kind of things I consider files. Everything else, like Excel spreadsheets, Word docs, text files, I throw in docs, Google Docs. Now, Google Docs, or Google Drive as they call it now, is really just another little thing that loads at startup, and you point it to a folder, and it synchronizes against that folder. I do the same thing on the other side with Dropbox. Dropbox, I do for my files, my data files, like my backups of Quicken, and like my backup of my movie collector list, which is run as a database, things like that. So I keep those. The reason I keep them separate is because Google Drive likes to convert things, and sometimes I don't want stuff converted. So, and it's a mental reminder in my head of where things are organized and how I handle it. Google Drive has a pretty much, as far as I know, an unlimited amount of space for simple docs and files. So I never really worry about throwing things in there and keeping them synchronized. Dropbox, I have, because I've invited so many friends and I've done all their little like tweets and share on Facebook and things like that, I have about 6 or 8 gigs of storage with them for free. So what I do is I keep a lot of my quick reference things on Dropbox. So not only do I keep my backup files, like my Quicken backup and my movie list backup, and like my client access list backup, but I also keep on there some quick reference items that I may need. Like, for example, my insurance card. You know, I scan that in and I keep it in Dropbox under an important files folder. My birth certificate, I have a scanned copy of that in there. My social security card, I have a scanned copy in there. They're not obviously official or legal for use, but at least I have them there as a reference. I used to keep a list of my mom's prescription numbers in there, so that when I would have to go to the pharmacy and refill prescriptions for her, that was in there. I could just quickly scroll through and find all those reference numbers. There's a lot of ways you can do it. But both of those run and they keep in sync with your computer. So if you modify a file, it updates it there. If you create a new file and throw it in that folder, it synchronizes it. It's always there. And it's cross-platform too, so I can open Dropbox on my phone and see all the files that I would if I were sitting in front of my computer. I don't ever have to actually leave my computer on if I don't want to. I do, but I don't have to. So that's really docs, files, music, and photos. So the last one is photos, and this one has been a challenge. So I had some goals in life. My goals in life were to keep photos organized the way I like to keep them organized, to keep photos organized by a topic, what that topic is, like a subject or a subtopic, and then a date. So for example, if I traveled to Wisconsin for New Year's, right, I would put travel-Milwaukee-January 1st, 2012 or 2015 or whatever it is. Actually, I would do 2015-01-01 so that it keeps it in order. But the reason I do it that way is because I look up things in that way in my mind. I think, okay, what was I doing? It was an event. What kind of event? It was a birthday. Okay, whose birthday? Steve's birthday. What year did I want to know about Steve's birthday? 2007? Okay, great. So in my mind, my folder structure is events, birthdays, Steve, date. Okay? So that's how I wanted to keep things organized. Now, I have tried pretty much every tool out there. I started with iPhoto, and while that allowed me to label things as folders and such, it was pretty limited as to what I could do for sharing, collaboration, and backups. It used its own proprietary database, and it was a little kludgy sometimes, and when I got past about 50,000 photos, it got really, really slow, and that's okay. It's good for some people, it wasn't good for me. Part 2, I tried an application called SmugMug. Okay, SmugMug is an online photo storage utility that costs money, and it allowed me to order photos or upload them all, but it didn't really let me do much else. It was basically a way to thumbnail all my photos and try to find things. It was slow. It didn't recognize face tags. So my requirements to a lot of this was I had to be able to find photos by topic, by event, by title, by file name, or by tags. I had to be able to tag them with faces and things like that, because that's really, I mean, all of my photos are about the people that I'm seeing. So I needed to be able to tag them all. And you couldn't do that with a lot of applications. So then I switched to Aperture, which is an iOS application. I'm sorry, an OS 10 application. And it was great for a while. Very powerful. Had a lot of extremely good features about face tagging and things like that. But what I realized is that all of the tags were stored inside itself. They weren't actually put on the pictures. They weren't actually like associated to anything. So when I would export them, unless I was directly in the application, I couldn't do anything with those photos. So I didn't have any mobile options. There was no way for me to see them if I wasn't sitting in front of my computer. I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll make a website of them all. So I tried maintaining a manual website, but the problem is, anytime I would re-tag a photo or add a face to some one of them or something like that, I'd have to go back in 2 or 3 places and update that. So that didn't work for me either. Well, then I started using Picasa. Picasa works almost perfectly. So here's how Picasa works in a nutshell. you organize your photos the way you want. You start out with, in your Finder or in your Explorer, you create a folder, let's say you call it Photos. Then in that Photos folder, you create all your subfolders, events, travel, birthdays, whatever. Then you put all of your photos in different folders by event. So some of you might call them by camera roll or something like that. But in my example, so every time I would go to Milwaukee for the weekend, I would create a folder called Milwaukee Date, and I would throw it in my travel folder. So I'd have 15 or 20 photos in the Milwaukee dated folder of that trip, and then I would drop that into my travel folder, so that I always knew that if I wanted to look up Milwaukee travel, I just navigate through that. I hope that all makes sense so far. Now that I have that structure, I open Picasa, and it asks you where all your photos are. I simply have to point it to that main root directory called Photos, and it catalogs everything in the file structure that I used. It doesn't rearrange them. It doesn't copy them into some database all its own. It doesn't have to import them. It just has to be able to read the photo, collect the data. And then it creates what we call references in its own database. So for example, if I decide to color correct or add a tag to a photo, it's not necessarily changing anything about that photo. It's simply putting a reference in its database that I've color corrected this and that I've added this tag. Once I've made those changes, I can save the photo, and it will apply those changes directly to the photo. Oh, oops. Or, damn it. This is the problem with blogging while driving. So it'll apply the changes to the photo, or I can do what they have this menu drop down for is apply tags to photo. Now what's great about that is Picasa is a Google app, which means it uses Google Plus on the back end. It uses Google's face recognition engine. It uses Google's find people system. So that's a number of awesome things, because first and foremost, I have a lot of people that I need to tag. And the face recognition engine on this thing is pretty fucking spectacular. I'm not gonna lie. I tagged one picture of my friend BJ, and it found 470 pictures of him in like 10 seconds. It was amazing. Anyway, so what it does is it tries to use your contact list, right, of your Google contacts. So whoever's in your Gmail account for email addresses. And if you don't have any, all you have to do is type in a new name, create a new contact real quick, and it then remembers that person is that person. What's great about that, though, is if you do update your Google contacts to include, you know, let's say John Smith, and you put a phone number in there, it will try to link them together. So it's great that way. Now, that said, after all is said and done, Picasa still keeps a database of things that you're doing while you're making changes, so that you're not updating the physical photo yet. But it has this flip switch that you say, okay, apply changes to photos, and it writes all of this data into the photo itself, so that when you open the photo in other applications, or you open it back in somebody else, or you send that to somebody else, those tags are stored along with it. So that's awesome. Now, there's one other feature about it. Originally, and in the older versions of Picasa, Picasa used to have its own website, picasaweb.com .google.com or something like that, where it was just this kludgy, poorly written website that you could upload copies of your photos and it would store them in some kind of weird Flickr, Yahoo photo-y way. It wasn't very good. Well, Google said, you know what? You're our company. We own you now. You're not some independent program. We're going to merge you into Google Photos. So now, if you have a Gmail account signed up, and you can synchronize any and or all of your photos by folder that you've created through Picasa or through your Finder. You tell it what folders you want to sync, and it will synchronize those for you. And by default, it will upload those to Google Photos as private photos, which means that they don't show up for everybody on, you know, your Google Plus profile or anything like that. They are simply there as backups. And you can go into Google Plus then and make them public or share them with people or use your phone and review them. And you can sort them by those folder structures that you use at home. So I like that, and I think that that's an optimal solution for managing photos in a global sense while still being able to retrieve all of them in from my phone, from my computer at work, whatever. Now there is one other thing that I do overall, and that is because there are some files that I don't want on the cloud, and there are some things that are just, they're too big or they don't make sense to put in any of those kind of, they're not really data files, they're not really files that I would back up per se, but sometimes I need them. Like, for example, I needed a clip of code from something I had created a while ago, but it wasn't really something that I put online anywhere to download. It's on my home computer. I knew exactly where it was, but how do you get to it? Well, there's another application and website out there called Tonido, T-O-N-I-D-O. Tonido, what's great about Tonido is that it is a plugin, of course, or a startup application on your computer. You tell it which files or folders you want to make exposed, and it creates a link that updates itself out there on the web. So for example, if your name is John Smith, the system will create the Tonido application will create a web page for you called johnsmith.tonido.com. When you go to that page, obviously you have to log into it, you know, username, password, secret code, kind of a thing. But then it gives you a Dropbox looking list of the real actual files that are on your computer. So if, like, for example, I on my external drive, not my backup drive, but my data drive, I made that whole data drive an item in Tonido. Tonido indexed that drive on its website, and when I log into Tonido, I see all the files and folders on that drive. And if I want to, I can download any of those to where I'm at through my login. I can download them to my computer, I can download them to my phone, whatever. What's great about that is, if I remember, for example, if I remember where a photo is in reference in my folder structure hierarchy, like, oh, I remember I put this set of photos in my archives, and for whatever reason, I haven't synced that archive to Google, or I haven't downloaded it somewhere else, I can go into Tonido, go into my photos, go into my archives, go to my photos folder, and see a list of my photos. Tonido is smart enough to make them into thumbnails so I can actually look at what those pictures are, and then I can download it to my phone. So it's a very easy and amazing kind of way of having access to your files on your home computer without actually having to log directly into your computer. So I just thought I would share some of those things. It's about 8 o'clock here. I am just now arriving to work. This is now like a 40-minute blog, which I thought was only going to be a 20-minute blog. But if anybody got any usefulness out of this, great. If not, and I'm just rambling to the internets, that's fine too. So hope you're doing well, and I will chat with you tomorrow.